Greetings, friends, and welcome to my guide on the final coil of Bahamut turn 10. This encounter requires a high level of teamwork and cooperation in dealing with several mechanics throughout the fight. There is also 2 DPS checks and a healer awareness needs to be spot on. The encounter has 3 phases with 2 add phases. I'll go over each phase in order and explain all the mechanics as we go through the fight. I'm sure there are other strategies that work just as well, but these are the ones that we have found work best for us as a team and while we were learning. So, let's get started. The first phase is from 100% to 85%. During this phase, the boss will do several different mechanics. You'll want to tank the boss inside the smallest circle because throughout the fight there will be a soft enrage timer that makes the arena smaller as the fight progresses. Have the boss facing due north and as centered as possible. The range and healers should be loosely spread, covering the back half of the circle, and if possible, only being directly behind the boss when absolutely necessary. I'll start with his most basic attacks first. Crackle Hiss. This is a large frontal cone dealing moderate damage. Critical Rip. Single targeting mechanic damage dealing massive damage. This attack must be mitigated. Spike Flail. Large rear conal attack dealing moderate damage, applying a heavy bleed. The bleed can be cleansed. Okay, now I'll get into the first 2 mechanics. Wild Charge. A blue mark will appear above someone's head. After 5 seconds, they will explode, doing low damage and applying a vulnerability debuff to everyone within 7-ish yalms while stunning the person. The boss will then turn to that person and charge, doing roughly 16,000 points of damage while knocking back anyone in the way. This damage can be spread across multiple targets. While casting Wild Charge, the boss will summon an electric field under him, dealing damage if stood in. This field lasts roughly 30 seconds. Okay, take a look at this wonderful picture. Here is our positioning for the fight. The off-tank stood on the opposite side as the melee. The range and healer stood toward the back half of the circle on the sides. Now, based on this positioning, this is how we handle Wild Charge. We form a line to spread the damage. The first thing that needs to be accomplished is the person with the blue mark should run to the back center of the circle. Remember though, while making your way, be careful not to clip anyone with the small explosion when the blue marker detonates. If you do, that person will likely die because it will give them a stack of vulnerability. The off-tank will be the first in line, taking the most damage, usually about 8k. So remember to pop a cooldown or be in your tanking stance. The off-tank should be about 6 to 7 yalms from the boss. Then we have 2 to 3 other people get in between the off-tank and the blue mark to help soak as well. Pets will not count toward the soak damage. This boss will then charge through the line, dealing high damage to all targets. If people die, it is usually because not enough were in the line or someone got clipped by the blue marker explosion. It helps tremendously to prepare for this with Stone Skin and Adlo or Sakor and Sacred Soil. When learning, I would highly recommend trying to over-prepare as much as possible. So that is how we deal with Wild Charge. One last thing to note is that immediately following Wild Charge, the boss will do Crackle Hiss followed by Spike Flail. So always stay on the sides of the boss after the charge. The next mechanic I'm going to talk about is called Prey. A red mark will appear over someone's head, applying a debuff that counts down from 5. The target must be shielded by Stone Skin or Adloquium. Sakor will not count or be strong enough before the timer reaches 0. If the person is not shielded, the debuff will explode, doing massive single target damage and applying paralysis. So basically, this is a simple mechanic. When you see the debuff or red marker, simply shield that player before the debuff explodes. This phase will last until you DPS the boss to 85%. At 85%, this is the add phase. This is a DPS check. Starting at 85%, the boss will start casting Electro Charge. After the cast, the boss will go invulnerable and he will start building up stacking buffs of increased damage dealt. 2 adds, Son and Daughter of Imdagud, will spawn on the left and right sides of the small circle, totaling 4. The main tank and off tank will need to pick these adds up and tank them where they spawn, keeping them separated at all times. Our kill order was main tank Daughter, main tank Son, off tank Daughter, off tank Son. You'll want to kill the daughters first because the sons leave an electric field dealing damage when they die. After DPSing the adds, focus fire on the boss and go hard. A good number of stacks to see on the boss after the adds are dead would be between 6 and 8. After about 23 seconds, the boss will then cast Electric Burst. This is a raid-wide AoE that does damage based on the stacks the boss has. After the cast, this will transition you into Phase 2. Phase 2 is from 85% to 55%. In this phase, the boss will introduce one more mechanic and a possible tank swap. The new mechanic is Heat Lightning. This ability will target 3 random people, including the off tank, dealing moderate AoE damage and applying a stack of vulnerability for about 7 seconds. Make sure to stay loosely spread, about 5 to 7 yalms away from everyone, because the target struck by Heat Lightning will damage all nearby party members, also applying the debuff. One critical point about this phase is the boss's ability order. It will be Heat Lightning, Prey, Heat Lightning, Wild Charge. Now on the second Heat Lightning, there will be 2 very crucial things that need to happen. The off tank may be targeted by Heat Lightning. If this happens, you must tank swap. The reason for this is because with the Heat Lightning's application of vulnerability, the off tank will no longer be able to survive the Wild Charge. In order to handle this successfully, after Heat Lightning goes out, the off tank must provoke and the main tank needs to run straight through the boss in order to get into position fast enough to take the charge. The players hit by Heat Lightning will also not be able to stack for Wild Charge, so all of the remaining players not struck by Heat Lightning must stack. Once this ability rotation is done successfully, just rinse and repeat. This will last until 55%. Add phase, 55%. This phase is almost identical to the first add phase, except for this is a higher DPS check than before because an additional set of adds will spawn. The boss will go invulnerable again and adds will spawn on the left and right sides of the circle. This time it is recommended to cast your LB3 at the start. Our kill order remained the same. Main tank Daughter, main tank Son, off tank Daughter, off tank Son. Roughly 35 seconds after the phase begins, a third set of adds will spawn at the north and south of the circle. The main tank will pick these adds up and take them to the side where the adds died before. Finish DPSing those off-tank adds, then kill the new adds. After these adds are dead, go hard on the boss again. This will transition you into the final phase. Phase 3, sub 55%. This is the final phase, and in this phase, one final mechanic is introduced, Cyclonic Chaos. When this ability goes out, it will tether a random person to the boss. The tethered person will explode in roughly 8 seconds for massive AoE damage, applying a stack of vulnerability. The damage can be spread across multiple targets. Now this phase will really begin to stack all the mechanics on top of each other, and ability order is very important here. We break it down into 3 possible outcomes: Heat Lightning plus Wild Charge, Heat Lightning plus Cyclonic Chaos, and Wild Charge plus Cyclonic Chaos. Heat Lightning plus Cyclonic Chaos will always be the first. Then one of the other 2 will be next. After that, rinse and repeat, because it will go back to Heat Lightning plus Cyclonic Chaos, followed by one of the other 2. Here is how we handle all 3 possible scenarios. Heat Lightning plus Cyclonic Chaos. Heat Lightning will go out, those struck will run to the edge away from the center, the tethered person stacks in mid, while the players that were not struck by Heat Lightning stack with them. Heat Lightning plus Wild Charge. Just like in Phase 2, Heat Lightning goes out, tank swap if needed, those not struck will stack for the charge. Wild Charge plus Cyclonic Chaos. Blue marker gets into position, Tether goes to mid. We have our range DPS stack in mid to split the Cyclonic Chaos. Then everyone else goes to the edge. Cyclonic Chaos goes off, blue mark target is stunned and back, the rest not affected by Cyclonic Chaos stack for the charge. With those 3 possible mechanic combinations, once you have successfully done them once, that is the entire fight. There is nothing else left. But yeah, that's all I got, guys. I hope you found this guide helpful, and even more so, I hope with this information this will lead to some sweet first clears. Good luck, guys.